Chapter 2, The Night Side. I was curled up on my bed reading because there still wasn't much else the others were allowing me to do yet. It wasn't the others so much as it was Celeste, specifically, who insisted I still needed rest to be sure I was recovered. Not that I had to listen to her, but I'd already listened. It was easier to listen than to argue. Force of nature. She was a sort of ever-present mother figure in Cordis, but she was also a doctor, and that was the worst possible combination. But as she kept insisting I stay cooped up, I was going to either demand they reinstate partial system access so I could find something to entertain myself, or I was going to demand a tribute of books. Because there was a distinct lack of relaxing bubble baths with which to occupy myself. I had a feeling that by the time I was able to have another bubble bath, I would forget life owed me one. In the meantime, I was reading the journal Jack had given me. I had learned some surprising things. Go on. Probably not the things Jack intended me to learn if I took his words when he gave it to me at face value, which I wasn't sure I could. Because he knew I'd read this stuff when he handed me the journal, so that might have been the point. Jack and his sister, I had learned, were born in a slum in Pythia. They spent their childhood there alone. They were orphans. Sylvia acted as a mother to him as much as she was a sister. And I learned they had both joined Endgame when they were children. Endgame discovered Jack on a rare mission to Delphine. Sylvia wasn't identified as a queen right away, but she was taken to Corsolaris with Jack because they had no other family. In her words,
I was afraid for them to find out about me. I knew I was a queen. I hadn't even told Jackie. I was afraid if people knew they'd take me away. And where would that leave him? He had no one else. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep it to myself forever. Not when I was in the middle of them, hiding in plain sight. But I'd hidden myself for so long. Losing my secret was like losing a part of myself. Sometimes a secret becomes so ingrained in who you are that losing it is more terrifying than other people learning the truth.
it was strange thinking of her being a child herself when she wrote some of this. There was maturity in her words that belied her age at the time. But reading through it had stirred up so many questions. Sylvia had to be the queen rank that died around 10 years ago. And she also had to be the reason Jack was no longer with Endgame. That much I could put together on my own. But I had so much I wanted to ask Jack, yet I wasn't sure how to approach it. Knowing Sylvia went to Endgame only to eventually die made reading her journal a surreal experience. I had few details about what happened 10 years ago. Her death, as a high-ranking member of Endgame, had been highly publicized at the time. I was much younger, of course, 24. I was still in prep school back then, several years out from university, but very focused on studying. Endgame had seemed so irrelevant to my life, and I avoided information about Espers as much as I could during that time. Now, even though I was curious, I couldn't access the net to look up the details on my own. All I knew was that no matter how much people talked about queen ranks being the strongest, it hadn't saved Jack's sister. And now she was gone. Jack had made enough stray comments about Endgame for me to conclude he felt betrayed by them, that he believed they'd thrown his sister away somehow. It was starting to make sense why he was so determined that my being here was the best thing for me. It could be something he wanted to tell me himself, but I imagined this was the easiest way. Well, that was all assumption. I could be reading way too much into it. Jack said I might find it useful for learning about my abilities, and there were some interesting parts about that sort of thing too. She had written a lot about what it was like to train, and do things like mimic other people, something I still had no idea how to do consciously. Sylvia talked about mimicking others in terms of synchronization and harmonization. Some portions read almost as if she could hear psi waves. Interesting. So hers was more audio-based than visual? Just judging by Morgan's colors and in Case's route.
When I synchronize with another person, it's like creating a harmony where two opposing sets of waves come into alignment. For one moment, they overlap perfectly. When I reach that point, I can see how to make that pattern my own, or change it at will.
She wrote that she didn't believe she was perceiving psi waves as proper sound. Rather, it was her mind translating what she was sensing into a form that aligned with her other sensory systems. It was interesting to read her interpretations of it all. The way she talked about psi made it seem both mystical and practical at once. But interspersed through it all were personal moments too. Her thoughts about Jack and how quickly he adjusted, for instance. And I was surprised when Caleb made a cameo in her entries. He and Jack had been close friends as children, and she had interesting thoughts about him. She talked about other people there, people that made Endgame seem so much more real. Whether it was Caleb or Magnus, who she went to class with, or the serious librarian she had a crush on. Oh! Did we meet a serious librarian? I don't think we did. Of course, that was many years ago. In some ways, it was like reading a story where I knew the ending wasn't a happy one. It made certain moments more poignant because it wasn't just a story. It was an actual person's thoughts and feelings. Reading it was difficult. I'd been doing my best to treat it like research material, taking notes the way I would if I was reading a historical document. We had studied journals in some of my classes as well. But this was so much more recent, and I felt a connection with Sylvia. Not only because of shared circumstances. It was more than that. Deeper. Almost frightening. When I touched this device, there were moments where it was like the heavy veil of time that separated past and present thinned out, and I could almost reach through, peel it back, and see it all firsthand. There were moments when I could almost see her typing her entries in my mind, meeting my gaze and smiling. Who do you picture, though? Who are you? I don't suppose you'd like to share an image of who you're picturing. You know, just for scientific research of my own theories. It was just in my head, of course, but it was unnerving. I set the device aside and rolled to my back, running my fingertips over my eyes. Maybe it was time for a break. I wonder if they need help in the kitchen again. It was getting close to dinner. I left the journal on my bed and stepped into the hall, trying to clear my thoughts. Meals at Cordis were communal, and everyone took turns cooking them or helping cook them. Various people contributed to stocking the kitchen as well, so everyone could share resources. I had squeezed my way into the kitchen last night while looking for a distraction. My cooking skills weren't amazing, and I was still recovering, but I could at least chop vegetables and help clean up. It had been awkward at first because I was still the new person and I hadn't met everyone yet. Even so, it was nice to be around people, even if I didn't know them, even if some seemed wary of me. Then Celeste found me and made me go sit down because I should give myself a couple more days before I started any heavy work, apparently. Cooking was clearly too strenuous for someone with recently healed brain damage. So I had been relegated to watching, and since people still seemed a little cautious about striking up conversations with me, that meant watching alone. Until Jack showed up to keep me company. As I made my way downstairs to the lobby, I kept an eye out for Celeste in case she was on the warpath. Again. Fortunately, I didn't see her anywhere. This was, I decided, the last day I would let her bully me into sitting quietly and reading the entire day. I was going stir-crazy staying up in my room, resting. This was a community. It would be nice to at least be able to take part in it. I was lonely, if I was being honest. It was far from home, and being so isolated was starting to get to me. No matter what my situation was, I couldn't stay up in my room forever. I needed to be around people. I needed to be able to just do things. And in all honesty, I was fine. I had listened to her so far, but I would start pushing back from now.
Hey, Morgan.
Jack! I wasn't sure you were here. I haven't seen you at all today.
I was out this morning. Got back a while ago. Celeste said you were resting.
Ah. What she meant by that was that she banished me to my room after breakfast. She's been treating me like I'm dying, even though I'm back to normal.
Probably excited to have a patient that listens to her for a change.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I get the feeling many of her patients are somewhat less accommodating.
Just need to hold your ground, Butterfly.
I intend to. I can't keep living like an exile.
I find that if she won't back down, it works to just run away.
I'll remember that, but I suspect she'll give chase.
Run faster than she does.
I'm not a rook like you are, thank you. He grinned at me as we stopped near an empty sofa.
You're really feeling okay now?
Fine. Completely. Despite what some people might have you think.
Well, you have to give her credit for caring about your well-being.
She's worse than my mum.
She's worse than the entire global population of mums.
That's great. I flopped down, crossing one ankle over the other as I stretched out my legs. So you said you were working earlier today?
I was. Miss me, Butterfly? I'm touched.
I miss being able to talk to people in general.
Sorry I wasn't around. Even if I'm here in Chestershire, it doesn't mean I'm on holiday.
What work do you do here exactly?
What kind of work do you think I'm doing?
Given everything you've told me about Kesa, are you sure you want me to answer?
If you're imagining me running some kind of racketeering scheme or something, you're dead wrong on that. Kesa doesn't get involved in that kind of thing.
So others do? He shrugged and gave me a sheepish grin.
What do you think?
Right. Noted. So, if you're not running around doing illegal things, then what?
I never said none of it was illegal. But mostly I run errands, deliver messages, check on things that need checking.
That all sounds nice and vague.
Keeping things vague is sometimes better for everyone.
How comforting.
Hey, I was going to step outside for a bit. Want to come with? If you don't mind a walk with a vaguely criminal sort.
By outside, I assume you don't mean the roof again?
Not exactly. I wouldn't suggest you take a walk at this time of day if you were alone, but you'll be with me, so it'll be fine.
I'm tempted to doubt you on that one, but at least so far you've proven surprisingly reliable. For a criminal.
I'm almost offended, but I'll let it slide this time. Some people find that bad boy persona pretty attractive.
You got me there. And now I'm tempted to dispute that, but I'll also let it slide this time.
Well, at least you find me tempting in some ways, if not the ways I'd prefer.
I rolled my eyes and stood again. But yes, I'd like a walk.
Let's get out of here before Celeste comes back.
Agreed. Nice. I don't know that we actually did a lot of walking in Kesa's route. Not with Kesa, for sure, so this is kind of nice. Leaving Cordis was a little like an escape attempt, or like sneaking out when you weren't allowed. I'd been up to the roof a few times, but never outside the building like this. I wanted to see more of the district, even if the sight that greeted me wasn't the sort of pristine, glowing city I was used to. I've been thinking this, but the day cycle seems short here. Only 7 hours of daylight. It always gets dark so early.
Energy shortages, Butterfly. They shorten the day cycles in the poorer domes like this one to ensure there's enough power for places like Pythia.
But it rains here all the time. Usually weather is the first thing to go when there's a power shortage, isn't it?
The environment system here has been on the fritz for months. It's a power drain, but they pull power from elsewhere to make up for it.
They could just fix it.
They could, but it's hard to get people to care. Kay's been working on it for a while now in his spare time. Apparently, he can't work out where the problem is.
That's ridiculous. This is something the city governance...
That's something Chestershire has very little of, and they don't spare efforts outside of the few wealthy districts.
energy shouldn't be a concern here. With the solar array...
Morgan, energy is at a premium because it's so damn expensive. The Dayside charges astronomical amounts to transfer energy over here. With the amount of power loss from sending it so far, it's hardly worth it. You think a place like this could afford it? There aren't that many geothermal vents on this side of the planet, so if you aren't right next to one, you're out of luck because it's still damn expensive. There are a few wind farms, but most are at the edge of the wastes. It's too cold out on the ice, and they don't last long.
Ooh. Nocta Gelida or Gelida? The polar desert on the night side of the world, shrouded in perpetual night. There is very little life on the planet once one travels too far into the Arcalian night. Closer to the edge, one might find various types of scrubby plants and lumbering mammals able to deal with the cold. But in the frozen night, life is only possible near the geothermal vents that bring light and heat to the surface. Interesting.
So no matter what scenario you're talking, energy is expensive here. Other things come before a normal day cycle. And you haven't even seen the brownouts and blackouts.
The what?
It's rough living on this side, Morgan. In a lot of ways. It always has been.
I mean, I'd known that already. It was common knowledge there were domes on the night side where the conditions were bad. Some of it went all the way back to the early days of colonization. Or the war. Capstone disaster. A ship from the third caravan attempted to force its way to the surface after its citizens grew frustrated by the slow process of relocating colonizers from orbit to the planet. They felt the decision to throttle the trickle of new people was politically motivated, and were desperate to get to the surface and start living there. Though this was later viewed as greed-motivated, more accurate historical sources note the deplorable living conditions suffered by some of the colonizers in orbit, particularly those of the third caravan. And Dione was still largely unexplored and uninhabitable at the time. When the Capstone attempted to make an unauthorized landing on the surface, they unintentionally activated the planet's defense grid. On the surface, the grid was not immediately shut down as operators tried to get the Capstone to divert its course and return to orbit. When the grid first opened fire, it was with the intent to disable the ship, but they inadvertently destroyed it. The wreckage fell on a northern dome and killed hundreds of civilians, injuring many more. Neither side was willing to take responsibility for the disaster, sparking violent protests, riots, and eventually skirmishes between domes. King, the planetary AI, responded by wresting control of the grid. They reactivated several domes on the night side, diverted power there, and allowed as many ships as wanted to land and begin colonizing that side of the planet. This sparked the first wave of AI panic as colonists realized the AI could completely take control of the entire planet at any time. The control hubs immediately came under attack as Dayside colonists tried to regain control of the planet, causing the AI to lock down all access to its systems. The power grab combined with the AI's response of locking down and deliberately destroying most of its control centers sparked further attempts by multiple groups to gain control of all planetary systems. What followed was a 45 Arcalian-year civil war as each side attempted to gain control of the AI, battery stations, portions of the solar array, and as the night side repeatedly tried to gain control of domes on the day side. The open conflict ended only when Endgame and the first Espers arrived. This disaster would have lasting ramifications on Arcalian culture. I'll say so. Dang. Talk about... I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but it was just an absolute tragedy is what happened there. Sheesh. There were poor domes on the day side as well, but nothing like what Jack had just described, and what I was seeing with my own eyes as we walked. There was decay everywhere. Old, non-functioning cars parked on the street, decrepit buildings, burned out neon, overflowing rubbish bins and broken windows. And yet people were living. There were also clean shops, stores, and medical clinics. There were people passing us by like any other city. It was so different, but so similar. Next to me, Jack laughed softly, causing me to glance his way. What is it?
Nothing at all. It's just cute how you're staring at everything, Butterfly. Just trying to take it all in.
I don't see what's so cute about it. It's different from what I'm used to.
The day cities do leave a different impression.
It isn't only that. I mean, even the sky is different. It's so dark. I've never seen the sky so dark.
Huh. I guess you're right. Never thought about that. It's hard to see the stars from here, but you can see them if you go a little further to the edges of Chestershire.
Really? He laughed at my incredulity again. Hey, stop laughing at me. Why you laughing at me? Look, this is all new, man. I'm actually kind of surprised that telling him to stop laughing is not the emotional response, but... I mean, he's not doing it. He's not laughing with the intention of mocking or he does think it's genuinely cute. So, I'll reiterate, look, I've never seen the stars before, but also you don't have to show me the stars. That can be mine and Case's thing. But you could also show me the stars. I won't be offended. Not really. Did I give enough mixed signals there? Probably. Okay, I get it. You find it funny, but I've never seen the stars. Not outside of images.
We'll have to rectify that. Can't say I'd object to taking you stargazing sometime. Seems like it would be a nice romantic date.
Sure. We can stargaze while you protect me from getting mugged. Sounds delightful.
Won't have to worry about getting mugged if I take you somewhere secluded.
Oh, it's that face. It's the flirty face again. That sounds dangerous in a totally different way. He grinned, shoving his hands in his pockets as we walked. It's kind of intimidating, actually.
The idea of a date with me? Don't worry about it, Butterfly. I'm a perfect gentleman on dates.
1, I highly doubt that. 2, I meant the sky.
The sky's intimidating? Wow, you really were sheltered over there on the day side, weren't you?
Hilarious. But yes, it is intimidating. It's just so... dark. I used to have nightmares about the stars when I was little. Really? Wow. His face is just like, girl?
You had nightmares about the stars.
I used to dream there was this black void overhead stretching into eternity, and the stars felt like they were watching us, but they'd always burn out one by one like something was devouring them. I'd always wake up right as the last one went out. I hope that's not a premonition of something.
You had a lot of existential dread for a little kid, Morgan.
I guess I did. Was that before or after your hair turned white, just out of curiosity? Anyway, it wasn't until I was older that I thought the stars were a little pretty. But it's still weird looking up and seeing that darkness. He tilted his head back as we walked. The sky wasn't black, lit up as it was by the glow of Chestershire beneath it, but it was still darker than I was used to.
I guess I can see how it's unfamiliar. Night on the day side just feels like...
Day with the lights turned off?
I guess that's really what it is, isn't it?
I want to see it sometime, though. The stars, I mean. If I'm here anyway, I want to experience it properly. All of it. Even the parts that are unpleasant to look at and less romantic than the stars. I think it's important to see it all and understand it all.
Huh. I didn't expect that. I thought you'd be more scared of everything here, not really wanting to see.
Didn't think I had a sense of adventure.
I just thought you'd be more upset to have lost, you know, everything.
I am upset about that. I mean, of course I am. But is being upset going to bring it all back?
No, it won't. It never does.
Then I can't keep looking over my shoulder, regretting what I left behind, can I? I have to move forward and focus on where I am. Even if some of it isn't pretty to look at. I mean, people still live here.
That they do.
So I can live here too. He smiled then, and strangely, though I'd seen him smile and laugh on many occasions, it felt like the first time. It's true, there's like a subtle, very subtle, slight difference in his smile here compared to his other smiles. That's very well done. We walked in silence for a few minutes. With all the warnings, I was kind of expecting more people jumping out of alleys at us and demanding our money, I'll be honest.
It's not that bad everywhere. Not here. I mean, it's best not to walk around alone if you can help it, but it isn't like people are constantly getting mugged. A few more blocks away, maybe. I mean, there are good areas and bad areas like any place. But a lot of people are just trying to live, you know? Even the ones jumping out of alleys at people. Even the ones joining gangs and the like. Because sometimes living means joining up with people that are less than savory, but who are stronger than you are on your own. And those types are the ones that might try to stop a random passerby to see if they've got money on them, or something else that's useful.
The people who get attacked are just trying to live too.
Of course they are. Whether you're the predator or prey, both are trying to survive. The real problem is the group of people sitting at the top wanting to profit off others. But if it was easy to knock them off their perch, people would have. Anyway, my point is that not every place here is dangerous. You'll learn where it's safe and where you need to be careful. With time.
I hope so. Because it seems like there are some pretty nasty people keeping an eye out for me.
Maybe. But Chestershire is neutral territory for the 4 families, so none of them claim space here. That means some of the most dangerous aren't going to be lurking around corners waiting for you.
But the Court is affiliated with Crimson, so I assume other groups are affiliated with the families too?
Some gangs and groups here may have connections, but groups like Noir and Crimson aren't interested in the petty stuff that goes on here. And no one wants to start an all-out war by setting foot where they shouldn't.
Isn't that what Kesa is doing?
The rumors the Court has connections with Crimson are just that. Rumors. He's careful with what he does, and he's never acting as a member of Crimson.
Sounds complicated.
Well, it is. Like most things here, and everywhere else.
That's not all that comforting. Especially when I can't be certain what my future holds. Sometimes it's nice to have a clear vision of what's ahead, or a plan how to handle it. Not having one makes me anxious. For such a long time, I followed the same routine. There was school, studying, and not much else. Now I don't have any of that. This directionlessness leaves me feeling empty.
I admit that a career path is on the back burner for now, but that doesn't mean you don't have a direction at all, Morgan. Focus your efforts on training your Psi for now while we wait for things to simmer down. It might not be the same as the routine you're used to, but it's better than nothing. And it's something you need to do eventually anyway.
Maybe that's a good idea. I've been a little afraid to practice.
What's there to be afraid of?
It's the sense that if I step too far into this world, there's no going back.
You've already stepped wholly into this world, Morgan. I don't want to be defeatist, but you can't go back to how you were before.
I'm aware of that. But that doesn't stop the pit in my stomach every time I think about learning to use my abilities. Knowing something in your head isn't the same as knowing it in your heart.
I guess it's difficult to accept even if you know it's true. Especially when it's only been a few days. But you don't have to learn to become a weapon. Not like you would at Endgame. I still think it would be wise to learn how to defend yourself.
I understand. It's just a little hard sometimes, that's all. I know what I need to do.
and you're surrounded by people who can help. A lot of the people at the court are only infantry-level Espers, the lowest type. Some are pretty talented. Others can't do much beyond shut the door from across the room. But there are plenty of stronger people you can learn from too. People like me.
I wondered how many Espers lived here. Not in Cordis alone, but in the district. Were all these people on the street Espers? Jack said the court didn't have a distinct territory like the other factions. Are all the Espers in this area loyal to the court?
Hardly. Some are loners who learn this is the safest place for them, but most are affiliated with some group or other. Some like our ideals, but want to be a part of something more concrete. They lurk around here, but go off to join another group. That's how we end up with people in our space who don't always share our view of making this a safe place for others. So we're always fending off people who try to drag in things we don't want. It's impossible to keep it out when it's all around us.
What kind of things don't you want here?
Well, the usual stuff, right? Illegal gambling is a big problem here. You gamble away everything you've got, then borrow money you can't pay back. Drugs are a huge problem too. Everybody's looking for an escape or something to make life a little more bearable. Underground market sales go through here too when people are looking for a way to earn some money. And the underground doesn't just include things like weapon sales. Illicit medical procedures, like nano expansions and genetic modification, are also big. And it gets worse from there. Human trafficking, experimentation. That's a constant undercurrent that runs through everything here. It's hard to not get involved in it all, either directly or indirectly.
So that's what I'd have to learn to protect myself from? How people manage to scrape out a living here, I couldn't imagine. They would have to be strong. Probably stronger than most of them realized, because for them it was just how it was.
But that's not something you have to worry about for now. For now, training. How's Sylvia's journal? Finding it informative?
I cast a sidelong look his way, wondering if he was asking about the Psi-related information, or everything else. His expression, as usual, told me nothing. It's going okay. Learning from reading is different than learning from doing. There's a reason the higher tiers in university have live instructors.
Then ask for help from someone else at Cordis.
You're the only one I know.
You can ask me anytime, when I'm not working.
Right. When you're not doing your totally legal job as an errand boy.
Anyway, we should probably head back. We've gone pretty far.
We did an about-face and started back the way we'd come. Has Kesa been in touch with my parents recently?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up at some point. He asked me if you wanted to write a note for them. They're fine, but he ended up telling them he was an intermediary. They want to hear from you, which is understandable.
I've been working on a message, just mentally planning what I'll say.
I brought a new device for you to use. You can't send them a message directly yet, but you can send it to me, and I'll get it to Kesa. I'm not sure if it helps at all, but Endgame is monitoring your folks. Kay sent some people to check on them, and there was a mild run-in. But at least you can take comfort in the fact they're being guarded well.
Are Kesa's people okay?
They know how to skirt Endgame and get away from their agents. No problem.
I'm glad. I never realized my family would be in danger from all this.
I don't think they are, but I think everyone wants to make sure it stays that way.
Jack and I walked quietly for a long time. Oh, hello. We're on a walk. I stayed close to his side, half out of uncertainty and wanting to make it clear I was with him. The colorful lights played on our clothes and skin, and the wet footpath. It truly felt like I'd left behind all familiarity and moved into a completely different world. My only comfort was that I wasn't enduring it alone. Whatever else he was, Jack was a companion, and maybe even a trustworthy guide of sorts. Oh, hello.
I thought I saw you walking around, Jack. For a minute there, I wondered if you finally picked up a cute girl somewhere. But this is that flower you went and plucked from the dayside, isn't it?
So, am I cute or am I not cute? I'm getting mixed signals here.
Rowan, I didn't know you were roaming around out here.
On my way home from work. Out on a little date, are we? Can't say this is much of a date location. Veli would kick my ass if I brought him to this sort of dump for a date.
It's not a date. I was showing Morgan around a little. Morgan, this is Rowan Lynch. He lives at Cordis, but I don't think you two have met.
We haven't. And I couldn't say I was thrilled we were meeting now. He seemed sort of... I wasn't sure how to say it. He was intimidating.
How do you like our little city, Miss Morgan? Is it to your liking?
It's not a matter of liking it or disliking it, I guess. It's different from what I'm used to.
What a diplomatic answer. Is everyone on the dayside like this?
Hardly.
I'm not trying to be diplomatic. It's just that I haven't really seen much. And I guess it's what I expected, sort of. I don't think that's bad or good.
I can't tell if you're indecisive or trying to be nice.
Well, people live here. It's weird to show up and start declaring it all bad because it's different from the dayside. It's not like the other side of the planet is perfect either.
I guess you have a point there.
Rowan fell into step beside us as we walked, sticking to the other side of Jack, nearest the street.
So how is she so far? As good as Veli?
Who is this Veli anyway? Oh, you'll find out one day.
The other queen rank that works with us. He's currently at the mansion with Kesa. He's this guy's boyfriend, and if you think Rowan is annoying, you're in for a treat when you meet Veli.
Those kinds of remarks are why he stabbed you.
He stabbed you?
Twice.
He deserved it. Both times.
Part of me wanted to question what sort of things Jack had done to deserve to be stabbed. At the same time, I could kind of imagine. I could think of a couple instances in Case's route where I wanted to stab him.
And Morgan's been here for a few days, Rowan. I don't think we're to the point of comparing the two of them yet. Besides, it's not a contest. We don't even know the full scope of her abilities yet. She's an F class, unlike Veli.
Do you expect that to make much difference? Me being F class?
It usually does. Besides, Veli was born in infantry level. He raised himself up to queen level through hard work.
This should be promotion, right? Yeah, okay. I thought so, but wanted to make sure. So, wait. Anyone can just change their rank? I'd never heard anything about that.
Not anyone. Only some levels of infantry. Usually it happens through a nano expansion, which is something Endgame has worked hard to keep from mainstream public knowledge. But Veli managed it on his own without an expansion. Not something I've ever heard of anyone else managing.
Expansion? Yeah, about the fork system. Oh, yeah, okay. I think we read about this when we were in Ari's route.
It's because he's a genius, so good luck catching up to him.
It sounds impressive.
It is. Veli's amazing.
A slight smile came to my lips despite everything. The way Rowan sort of puffed up when I complimented Veli was cute, in a way.
Hey! Hey! Stop!
Before I could even react to the shout behind us, Jack pulled me close and sort of half-pushed me against the wall, shielding me with his body. There was weapons fire, and someone blew past us, shoving Rowan out of the way.
Hey!
Behind the person who ran past us came several others, shouting for them to stop. And further back, more people spilled onto the street calling for help. Everything happened too fast for me to register it. Jack was pushing me at Rowan a few seconds later.
Get her back to Cordis. I'll go see what's going on.
Hey! Jack! Ugh, really?
Jack was already darting down the footpath, leaving the two of us alone. What's going on?
A thief, probably. Maybe a fight, too. Jack will take care of it. Come on.
Is it okay to let him go alone?
More okay to let him go alone than it is to let you try to get back to Cordis alone.
We could...
No, we couldn't. We have no idea what's going on, and you have no idea how to handle yourself in a situation that, well, requires handling yourself.
But Jack...
We'll be fine.
Rowan stepped closer to me, causing me to take an instinctive step back against the side of the building.
Jack knows what he is doing. He can handle things like this with his eyes closed. Don't forget this is our world, little flower.
His fingertips lightly grazed my cheek. Okay. He was smiling, but there was a vague, threatening air to his demeanor. Though I doubted he'd try to hurt me after Kesa went to the trouble to bring me here. You and Veli as a couple are so interesting. Like, who? I'm trying to think, like, who's the domineering one in that relationship? Because they're both, like, very intimidating people.
The only one who has no clue how to handle themselves right now is you. So we're going back to Cordis. Don't make me carry you, because I will.
I pushed past him, ignoring his laugh as I stalked back the way we'd come. I don't need you or anyone else to tell me I don't fit in here, and I don't need you to carry me anywhere. I paused, glanced back at him over my shoulder. And you can stop calling me Little Flower. It's patronizing as hell, and I don't like it. Still looking amused, he quickly fell into step beside me. The walk back seemed short. Maybe because Rowan didn't talk much after that. He walked me straight through the door to Cordis, and as soon as I was inside, he turned around and started back. Where are you going?
To find Jack, obviously. See ya, little flower. Morgan, I mean.
Rowan, wait!
You can't come with me.
I wasn't going to ask that. I was going to just say... stay safe? His lip curled up at the side, a teasing smirk, but he nodded before he ran off. So he was worried after all. Despite all the bravado, Jack was also just one person. For a little while I waited in the lobby for them to return, but neither did. I sat on one of the sofas and pulled my legs up, wondering if there was someone I should tell about what happened. Relatively safe or not, it was obvious unpleasant things still happened in this area. Chestershire was interesting, to say the least. It was dirty, and there was rubbish strewn about it. Like Cordis, it was a place where decay was creeping in, yet it still retained a strange beauty as well. It doesn't have to be like this here. Chestershire was only poorly managed because no one cared. They didn't even have a public safety department in some areas. There were obviously no other city services, or if they existed, they weren't reliable, hence the rubbish in the streets. There was also the lack of city gardens and permacultures in this district. You would never see a place so devoid of biodiversity in Cisalis. But that lack of plant life meant Chestershire's life support systems were working overtime. Without the added benefit of bioregenerative support and a functioning ecosystem, they would need more energy to keep the air clean. You may have read about this in cases. Yeah, I think we did. I think we read about the BLSS. Of course, you could tell the air wasn't as clean as New Albion, which meant the systems weren't even doing their job well. It made me wonder how clean the water was. But how could the citizens fix it? If the government wasn't doing its job, you had to change the whole thing from the ground up. That was... a revolution. I frowned, squeezing my knees tighter. What were Jack and Kesa hoping to accomplish here? What did they possibly think I could help them with? I thought about that until someone showed up to tell me they were serving dinner. Jack and Rowan still hadn't come back, and I could only hope they were okay. I decided I would tell Celeste about what happened after we ate, just in case. But by that time, they were back. I saw Jack from across the lobby, but he only waved before vanishing again. When I went up to my room later, I found the display he'd promised me, but I didn't get the chance to talk to him before I finally fell asleep that night. I could only assume that they'd resolved whatever happened earlier. And I went to sleep thinking about how much would need to change in this place to make it better and safer for everyone. Including me now.